Fathers, the importance of having your father in your life, the men who create who we are, or just the figures in our lives that serve as that father who create who we are. Hello and welcome to The Glass Floor. This is a podcast that is sponsored by NCFM, the National Coalition for Men, which was sponsored in 1977 and is focused on fighting against discrimination against boys, men, and the families that love them. They're an inclusive, nonpartisan organization that is very diverse. And today we're going to be discussing about fathers, the male figure in the family, and the kind of influence they have and the importance of them being there. And we have a special guest this time around.
We do.
Yes. Not just my co-host Tim here, but we have the one and only Dr. Clark Savage.
Yeah, Doc Savage is here with us today, and we're going to be talking about fatherless society, the impact of fatherlessness on society, which has disproportionately affected the black community. In the past, though, one of the things we're going to be looking at today is the way in which what's happening in the black community sort of predicts what's going to be happening in the white community in about 20-year lag. So welcome to the program, Clark. Great to see you.
First guest.
Yay.
Thank you kindly. I'm honored to be here. Clark Savage Jr., friends, colleagues, and perhaps others who know my alter ego, they'll ask themselves why I chose the name Clark Savage Jr. And so I call on popular media for a lot of things, and Doc Savage is an honorable character, a pulp novel hero from the 30s. He was a physician, a surgeon, and a crime fighter, and he's known for exercising 2 hours every day. Since I embody all of those things, I chose him as my alter ego.
Very good.
And one of the reasons I choose that alter ego is because a recent pop culture character said people need a dramatic example to shake them out of apathy. And I can't do that as the other guy. As a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting. And so I've come to the manosphere community 20 years ago. I was reading information and I was concerned about the disparities in treatment between men and women by society. So I managed to leapfrog that whole pickup artist community. There's a guy named Kevin Samuels who was extremely influential in my knowledge and my pursuit of issues in this arena.
Yes, he died much too young.
Oh, he died much too young. Oh yeah, but he left quite a legacy, and I'm hoping that someone will step forward to be his successor, not replacement, but successor. There was a guy named Donovan Sharp who has a more rough edge, but he's also a contemporary of Kevin Samuels. There are some other figures. You yourself, Tim, have a groundbreaking book. That guy, Rollo Tomasi, I think he wrote several chapters of a Bible for the manosphere. You would be one of those writers. Rollo Tomasi would be another. Warren Farrell, of course.
Of
Oh,
course.
ha, bang! Warren Farrell is a PhD, but there's another PhD. His name is Orion Taraban. He's coming forth with information from a clinical basis that reiterates a lot of what you and others in the manosphere have already written. And then I became acquainted with the NCFM Oh, about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was invited to speak in DC at a rally.
So Clark, we've talked about this in the past, and I think you agree with me that fatherlessness is probably the largest one issue facing the Black community. Would you agree with that?
I would say so. I would say that there are many. Fatherlessness, it's almost as if it's the unspoken word. And I think it was Kevin Samuels who said, and it's been repeated by others, that a necessity has become a virtue. So it was necessary for families to carry on. And so even though there was no father in the home, necessitated by most famously welfare, but initially by slaveholders
Uh-huh.
who would split up families and have children by some of their slaves. But again, fatherlessness, I believe, is at the core of some of the issues involving our community. I've seen successful Black men and women who grew up in families that were fatherless, successful uh, individuals, I believe is very great. So, yes, I agree with your statement. And like you said, we've discussed it many times before. And I think that one solution would be something directed at reversing that trend. And I'd like to research exactly what are some of the neuropsychological contributors to that outcome. That's my profession. That's what I do. I would like my research to be directed in that arena.
Okay, quote in the meantime, an author named Kathleen Parker. She says, through welfare programs such as aid to families with dependent children, begun in
Families.
1935 as part of the New Deal and predicated on a no man in the house policy, the U.S. government inadvertently made unwed motherhood profitable and father abandonment predictable. Yeah, so my understanding is, at least prior to 1996, if a social worker were to find so much as a man's pants hanging in the closet, she was at risk of losing all her welfare payments. You see, because the government
Yep.
reasoned if there was a man nearby,
Yep.
then he ought to be the one to pay. But the effect was that the black man who was trying to compete with the government, and the government was
Mm.
paying out a lot to single mothers, especially if they
Mm-hmm.
had multiple children, and it was very difficult or impossible for him to compete with that and still have any money left over at all for himself.
Hmm.
He had no choice but to disappear.
Afraid so.
You know.
Yeah.
Afraid so.
Actually, to that, I would like to ask a question to you, Clark. This was something that was brought to me by another African American activist within sort of within the manosphere, who's usually at our groups, who's also a father's rights advocate. And he had once told me that the welfare system was starting to come in place around, I believe, like the 70s and 60s. And he believed it
Mm.
was purposely made to attack
Yeah.
and dismember the Black Father Coalition that supported many Black politicians, that supported Martin Luther King, that supported um,
Interesting.
many of these
Mm-hmm.
people in the civil rights movement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is fact or not,
You
but that
know,
was something which he had mentioned with great detail.
Mm.
And so I'd always been interested in hearing an opinion from someone else on that matter.
as Kennedy used to say, let me say this about that. My favorite way to think about things is okay, you've heard of Occam's razor, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All things being equal, the simplest explanation is probably the correct one. It's an axiom of science and the scientific method. Well, there's Heinlein's razor.
Hmm.
It's named after Robert A. Heinlein, who was a Naval Academy graduate, somewhat of a fascist, or at least an authoritarian,
Mm.
and would have been very happy with an authoritarian state in America. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Heinlein's razor says, all things being equal, it's best to attribute to that stupidity rather than malice.
Uh-huh.
Now, you have the event, you have the outcome. The outcome is to attribute it to stupidity rather than malice. And that works for me. You know, you have a lot of well meaning people who do things that they think are in the best interests of society, the best
Yeah.
interests of the people, and maybe in the best interests of themselves. And that's something that Kevin Samuels, again, to reflect back on him, you know, he was definitely outcomes based. He was statistically grounded. The things that he measured and the things that he worked on were marriages.
Mm.
And so when people would debate him, he would say, okay, well, our outcome here, following this path, is more marriages in the
Mhm.
African American community, because that's where he started. But his outcomes were marriages. He was responsible for one of the ministries of his church. I believe it was in Houston, and it was a couples and marriage ministry. And the outcomes that he used were solid two-parent households from a marriage.
Are you familiar with Ellis Coase? He's a commenter, an African American.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And he wrote a piece for Newsweek. It relates to the black community, black women and black men, but I think it has more to do with gender than race. And
Hmm.
it goes
As a lot of things do.
as a lot of things do, I think,
Mhm.
yes. So Ellis Coase has noticed the plight of black women. Well, he's noticed that black women are leaving black men in the dust in terms of economics and education, right?
Yeah.
And but here's his
Hmm.
comment about that.
Yes.
Okay? But he still focuses his empathy on black women, saying,
Interesting.
yeah, is this new black woman finally crashing through the double ceiling of race and gender? Or is she leaping into treacherous waters that will leave her stranded, unfulfilled, childless, and alone? Can she thrive if her brother does not?
Wow.
If the black man succumbs, as hundreds of thousands already have, to the hopelessness of prison and the streets? Can she dare, dare she, thrive without the black man, finding happiness across the racial aisle? Or will she, out of compassion, loneliness, or racial loyalty, quote unquote, settle for men who, educationally, economically, professionally, are several steps beneath her?
Wow.
So,
Yes.
the first thing I would point out about that is how women, regardless of race, are like empathy magnets.
Mhm.
Just look who gets all the empathy. The men are being rejected, and yet the women are the victim,
Interesting.
right? I
Interesting.
mean,
Yeah. Say I'm caught on the part where it was about does she succeed if her if she's looking at her brother and
yeah, if her brother fails,
if her
yeah.
brother fails, and I'm just like I I'm s- uh, I'm at a
Whoa.
loss of
I
words. I'm a
know.
little
It's
like
extraordinary.
I'm trying to find the connection on how that affects her success in life. I mean, you'd be heartbroken for your brother, but it is your own determination that brings you to your fullest potential.
Yeah.
And also to that, I
And
would
if she's so heartbroken for her black brother, why is she chasing white men around, the
yeah.
ones that still have enough money?
Yeah. And to
Oh,
that, why is she
oh,
not supporting him to stay away from that lifestyle? It is an effort of a sort of a
Oh,
majority of your peers and your family
wow.
members and so forth. They're supposed to all be telling you, not directly that's wrong, that's right, but sort of guiding you towards those decisions. I mean, that's sort of what you do as a parent. You sort of know to them, like, hey, that's not the best thing to do. That's not the best thing to say. There are better ways to word it. There are, you know,
Yeah.
you try to,
Jeez.
if you will, sort of coax them in the right direction, but you
Well,
still leave them the space to make up their own mind. So and people bring up circumstance in that community, and I'll admit, the unfortunate part, and Clark, you can agree or disagree, and this is from a Chicago perspective also, so just keep that in mind. At least here in Chicago, it's sort of a half and half. Man, some black people are really gonna hate me right now, but I've noticed when I visit like my friends on the South Side and stuff, it's sort of like a 50-50 where half of it is sort of choices made. I've noticed that some of their schools down there, they've just remade it, and I've noticed a lot of students aren't grabbing books from the library using the new tech they got, which is a huge advantage than some other communities, and they really should be taking advantage of it. But they don't, and it's really unfortunate. There's
mm,
another half of it still, though, that there is a true fact that there is some unfortunate um, issues to that community because of the fact that some of those neighborhoods are sort of jail mills, to be honest, because
uh-huh.
you will commit a crime, and rehabilitation programs aren't all they should be. The best rehabilitation I'm aware of in all of Illinois is Kewanee, and Kewanee does not host many inmates. They
Uh-huh.
have a lot of inmates, but not a huge amount.
Uh-huh.
And that would be the best rehabilitation center that I've seen.
Hmm.
And so, they go through this, frankly, excuse my French, but shitty rehab experience that doesn't prepare them nearly enough for going out back in the world, and then they get put back out there if
Yeah.
they do, which is the next thing.
Yeah.
And they don't know
Yep.
what to do. They're struggling to find work. Um, you know, they're in a community that's
It's dreadful.
impoverished because they're
It's
put back
dreadful.
in that
I
community, and so
know.
they end up at a point sometimes where some of them just end up having to go back to crime to get enough money,
Right. So they're
unfortunately.
just they're just sunk so low. But I want to get your reaction, Clark. So I mean, what Ellis Coast seems to be saying is, yes,
Uh,
men are in severe decline. Men are out on the streets and imprisoned
Mm-hmm.
in huge numbers. And yet, even so, women are the primary victims, and women are the ones
mhm.
to get the empathy.
Yep.
Yes.
They are the most affected
My
regardless of all situations.
Yeah.
um, as you were reading that, Tim, and as you were responding, Katrina, um, I had a lot of thoughts. The first one was three words, and you guys have heard me say it time after time. Three words: hypergamy doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so,
And explain what
folks
hypergamy
who
is for
are
those who don't know.
hypergamy is a psychological, and my theory is that it is the neuro and psychological basis of the tendency, the behavior of individuals, women, to marry across or up,
Yeah.
and men to marry across or down.
Mm,
And you rarely see differences in that general tendency. When we say across and up or across and down, we're talking about socioeconomic status, regardless of race
Hmm.
or race, ethnicity, or gender, primarily socioeconomic status. That's what I was thinking as I was listening.
Yeah.
And because hypergamy doesn't care, men don't bear the responsibility for the solution to this problem. It can't be men solving that problem because hypergamy doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. One way of looking at it is that it's something that's built into the female sexual psyche,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not women's fault, but it is women's sort of accountability or responsibility.
And women's accountability and responsibility is an interesting topic in and of itself.
Yes. So I just like to say though, so that it's not all negative, and I don't really want to get down on either sex. So I just say that men and women both seek love.
Mm-hmm.
They just
Yes.
fall in love under different cues. So, a
Yes.
man looks into some big blue eyes and falls in love with beauty and youth and innocence and sweetness and so on. And the woman, was like Katie Royft was very frank. She would describe these things very candidly. She'd say how she would sit across the dinner table from some man who was, gonna pay for the meal, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
he'd slap down his Platinum American Express card, and she would get a warm, fuzzy feeling, because like her life was going to be taken care of, like she was, so she's also falling in love. It's not just purely mercenary. For the man, it's not purely carnal, and for the woman, it's not purely mercenary. They're both falling in love. They're just falling in love under from different cues
Yeah.
Yes.
trigger it.
Yes. Different neuropsychological stimuli
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that help each gender's different psychosexual mating strategy.
Yeah.
And this is generalizable across cultures. Now, something that's generalizable across cultures, schizophrenia has a 1% base rate.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Major depression has a 10% base rate across cultures
Uh-huh.
and apparently across genders. Now, in my opinion, the diagnostic criteria need to be a little bit more specific and a little bit more gender sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Right.
And so instead of focusing on a depressed mood in a man, let's focus on loss of energy, loss of interest or pleasure in previously pleasurable activities. Let's focus on some neuropsychological things like sleep, appetite, change, either increased or decreased, instead of more sociological and gender loaded things.
I agree. I
Very
agree.
interesting topic.
Terry Real believes that depression is much underdiagnosed in men because it shows up differently. One of the reasons is
Absolutely.
that in men it tends to show up more as anger than sadness.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about.
I know that you're an expert in these matters, that
I
you
know a
are
few
eminently
things.
qualified to speak on them.
I know a few things. Thank you, though. My interest area, I'm going to call it research. My interest area is how does the African American community, how is its situation a canary in the coal mine
Yeah, yeah.
for the larger American population? My theory is that this is because hypergamy is cross cultural and generalizable for different cultures, ethnicities.
Well, Clark.
That's got to be biological.
Yeah, yeah, Clark. I thoroughly agree. I'm suggesting we close this segment and then just come back for part two and talk
I'm
about.
down with it. I'm here
Okay.
for it.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do that. Go ahead.
Thank you all for coming and watching us today, and we will be back very soon.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on, Clark.
Yes. Thank you all. It's a great segment, and look for part two that will be coming out very, very
Very
soon.
soon, yeah. The
Oh,
continuation.
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep.
And join us
And comment.
on our open meetings on Sunday mornings.
That's right.
NCFM Chicago meetings every Sunday.
Bye now.